Good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Bob. I would like to make a special welcome to all the families that have children at Barbara Morgan and at the Payette Lakes Middle School. And all the children here tonight, I suspect we're going to hear from some of you, and we're really looking forward to that topic. So thank you for taking an interest in our business and caring about our city. We appreciate that. With that, I'm going to officially open tonight's regular city council meeting and ask our clerk, Bessie Jo Wagner, to do a roll call of the council. Here?
Here.
Here. Thank you both. Motion's been made and seconded. May I have a roll call vote on the motion?
Yes.
Councilmember Machete,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes. We made it through it. Bessie Jo, thank you. So that motion carries. Consent agenda has been approved. We'll move on to general public comment. I think we have a couple of people that signed up tonight. Excellent. So we're going to hear from Marcia Woody and Brian O'Neill. And before I call you up, Marcia, as our first person, I wanted to let everyone in the audience know we also received 3 public comments in writing, and those are routinely distributed to the council about 3 p.m. So it gives us a chance to review all of those. So with that introduction, Marcia, please join us. You have the floor. If you could state your name and address, please.
Comments and I have to speak. Okay, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm here regarding Agenda Bill 25-114 and your discussion tonight of McCall's public hearing process as it relates to land use applications. As you see in your packet, Idaho Code 67-6534 states that governing boards shall adopt procedures for the conduct of public hearings and requires that, quote, at a minimum, such hearing procedures shall provide an opportunity for all affected persons to present and rebut evidence. McCall's current public hearing process allows for public testimony after presentation by staff and the applicant. After public testimony, staff is then given the opportunity to respond and provide additional facts, as is the developer. However, the public is not given an opportunity to rebut any new evidence that is presented by staff or the developer during this time. I believe the public should be afforded this opportunity, called a surrebuttal. In the Givens Pursley Land Use Handbook, the authors cite a case in which opponents of a subdivision complained that they were not afforded an opportunity to provide surrebuttal evidence following the applicant's rebuttal evidence. The handbook states the court did not reach the merits, ruling instead that the project opponents failed to preserve the issue by requesting an opportunity for surrebuttal at the time of the hearing. The handbook goes on to encourage local governments to, quote, facilitate meaningful input and interaction, end quote, to help decrease the likelihood of a due process challenge. Several suggestions are provided, including that governments, quote, allow a reasonable opportunity for rebuttal, particularly of newly presented information. I am here to request that a surrebuttal opportunity be provided to the public as part of McCall's public hearing process. This opportunity could be provided by simply adding a sentence to section 3.15.04K of McCall City Code, which currently states, quote, "At the close of public testimony, the chair shall solicit comments from administrator or staff for additional facts or clarifications as a result of the testimony given. After comments from administrator or staff, the applicant or appellant shall be given an opportunity to address final comments to the commission or council. Please add a sentence to the effect of, quote, affected persons of the public shall also be given an opportunity to address final comments to the commission or council," end quote. Thanks for your consideration of this code change, which would provide the public with an opportunity for full engagement in the public hearing process. And I'm happy to be corrected on any misuse of legal jargon.
Thank you, Marcia. Okay, next up is Brian O'Neill. Welcome, Brian.
Hey.
Could you also state your name and address for the record,
My name is
please?
Brian O'Neill, 505 Washington Street. My notes are on a little pad. I've just started to get involved in local government as I recently bought a home. I met Lyle before at one of the democracy meetings. Definitely not as squared away as Marcia. Just have notes, just 3 topics of concern for me as a citizen. One is the speed limit, 25 miles an hour in residential areas. My side street is 15, but Sampson Trail and the kids go up there to the middle school. I walk 2 senior dogs. 25 miles an hour is very fast. No one has the grasp of what 25 miles an hour is until you stand on the side of the road and you have someone that you trust go 25 with the clock. I think it's up to the citizens, not the police, to really be in charge of what the speed limit should be in certain areas. I mean, you were thanking all the kids here. I see a lot of kids morning and afternoon going to school. Like I said, I have two dogs. That's one. The second one is we got the summer season heading up, and traffic gets backed up from Rupert's, the Ice Cream Alley, and the other ice cream joint, all the way up to Miners. If you have a road guard posted just on the weekend during maybe certain hours, you stop people from going in and going out. And if you got a boat trailer, you can't stop on a dime, even when you're going 10 to 15 miles an hour. It's just an idea, something to think about. And last one, the roads here, they're worse than Cascade. And Public Works, they did that paving last summer. It's all nice and everything. But then everything else down Sampson Trail, Washington, Colorado, wherever you go, now they're just filling in holes. And it's, it's putting a Band-Aid on where you need stitches. Next meeting, I'll be a little bit more prepared with some city codes. And like I said, this is new to me, so pardon me for doing it the way I'm doing. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you being organized too. Good job on that. All right, we're going to move on to our first presentation. And this is going to be from the Climate Kids group. And Kurt Wolf is going to introduce the group and take it from here. Thank you, Kurt.
You're welcome. So good evening, Mayor Bob, members of the council, Kurt Wolf, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of McCall. So the agenda bill before you this evening is an opportunity to introduce a group of local grade school students that have organized once a week after school for the past few months as part of an informal Climate Kids after school club. This energetic group of local students reach out to me with concerns regarding the impacts of road salts and de-icers on our local water bodies, vegetation, and particularly the community Christmas tree. These conversations quickly turned into a request to bring these concerns before the McCall City Council. You may recognize that the small town that McCall is that a few of these students know me well as either their coach through recreation programs and with the Nordic team, and for a couple of them as dad. That said, I'd like the council to know that it's been a joy working with all of them, as well as their teachers and parents, and to help them organize and bring their concerns and thoughts to the council and other city staff. Before I turn it over to them for introductions and a short presentation this evening on their concerns, findings, and suggestions, I would like to take the opportunity to build on the momentum that these students have generated to just say a few things on behalf of city staff. This is a significant issue and concern, especially for our department and our staff as it relates to much of what we are tasked with maintaining and managing. From urban trees to city infrastructure, we have a growing problem that needs to be worked through as an organization and a community. As the Idaho Transportation Department has relied more heavily on road salts and other de-icers to maintain safe roads during winter months, we have seen a significant and immediate impact on our local vegetation along roadsides and through the ITD corridor in our downtown. Our city streets department is also tasked and mandated with maintaining safe roadways and is often forced to utilize road salts and de-icers as a tool to do so in an effective and cost-effective manner reflective of budgets and available resources. We as staff have often discussed the pros and cons of such tools, and a closer look is now urgent given not just overlap of applications with state transportation department through our downtown, but also the immediate impacts on roadside vegetation and infrastructure that are becoming more and more apparent. So as I've already mentioned, I think this is a great introduction to an issue that will be ongoing for a while as we try and problem solve and figure out what makes the most sense to accomplish all these goals. There's pros and cons to it all. And as I've mentioned, it's been a joy to work with this group of passionate students. And following brief conversations with our Public Works Department on this issue, we are excited to continue those conversations with them. This club has not had the time to formally meet with our Streets Department, but I'm excited to help them set up an opportunity to do so with the council's blessing. As you will quickly learn, they are excited to help us explore and present options to best address and balance these environmental concerns while still maintaining safe roads and walkways in our challenging climate. So with that, we've got a couple groups of students that will present a few different items. I'll get my screen up to share, and I'd like to have our first group come up and join me, and they can introduce themselves. Okay, and I think the easiest is if I share my screen. Give me a sec, I may have to use here we go. Okay. And as you guys are ready to switch to the next person, just use the arrow key.
Hi, my name is River Wolf. Hi, my name is River Wolf. I am a 5th grade student at Barbara Morgan Elementary, and I live at 108 Brundage View Court.
Hello, my name is Augustus Thompson. I am a 5th grade student at Barbara Morgan Elementary. I live at 909 Alpine Street.
Hello, my name is Frederick Coriel. I'm a 5th grade student at Barbara Morgan Elementary, and I live at 1109 Buckboard Way.
Hello, my name is Ledge Wolf. I'm a 5th grader at Barbara Morgan Elementary, and I live at 108 Brundage View Court. Our concerns. We would like to share our research and information we have gathered with the McCall City Council. We understand that it's hard to find a perfect tool to create safe roads and sidewalks without any environmental harm. The following slides are suggestions to manage safe roads and a healthier environment.
Impacts on vegetation and water. Salt spray from vehicles causes salt burn on buds, leaves, and small plants. It also causes bud scales, which causes the plant to dry out in winter. Salt in the soil can take out water, causing root dehydration. Dissolved sodium and chloride ions separate when salt dissolves in water. This process can displace other needed nutrients. What we have seen: damage to evergreens along roads, dissolved foliage, discolored foliage, reduced plant vigor, and over time can lead to death. Studies have shown that the water bodies near salt storage or roadways that are salted have higher salt content.
Finding solutions and suggestions. We tested water samples taken from the road near the city Christmas tree, and the chlorine was 152 parts per million. As a reference point, safe drinking water is 4 parts per million. Plowstone and put down sand can be recollected at the end of the season. Some towns are exploring alternatives to road salt, such as beet juice. Unfortunately, still need to mix with salt brine, but it could mean less salt in the long run. Some towns and cities are banning the use of road salt. Seattle, New York, and Philadelphia, just to name a few. Road salts have a negative impact on urban infrastructure, vehicles, and equipment, greatly shortening the life cycles of all these things.
Based on our research and what we have learned, we are concerned for our city Christmas tree and the local environment. We would like the McCall City Council and staff to look further into these impacts and possibly consider banning the use of road salt in city limits. We would be welcome to the opportunity to continue to work with you and city staff on ways to help this situation and find solutions. Thank you for your time. Questions, if you have any.
What we might do, just because we've got a couple other groups, is have them come up and then you can address any questions or conversation you may have with the entire group. So with that, you guys could probably take a seat, maybe even up front here. This way that your letter's up on the screen as well. Just make sure you stand up close and talk right into this guy.
Okay, I'm Mia Anderson. I'm in 5th grade. I go to Barbara Morgan Elementary, and I live on 129 Mather.
My name is Cora Campbell. I'm a 5th grade student at Barbara Morgan Elementary School, and I live at 192 Buck Camp Lane, McCall, Idaho.
I'm Julia Brunn. I'm a 5th grade student at Barbara Morgan. I live at 744 Deer Forest. Okay. Dear McCall City Council, can you believe that because of road salt, our Christmas tree might not be there for the tree lighting? We all know that road salt saves lives by keeping our roads safe, but it also harms the plants and trees surrounding the road. We think that we should either decrease the amount of road salt or find a substitute because it has negative impacts on water, causes damage to vegetation. In addition, we will also give you some symptoms of road salt impacts.
First, road salt has negative impacts on water. A storage facility found that 25% of the private water could be affected by chloride. A study in 2018 showed that 37% in the drainage area in the U.S. had increased salinity. Studies show that streams had rising salinity levels at 84%, and the level that exceeded government standards was 29%. Our group tested water near the highway this winter, and we found that chloride was 152 parts per million. A safe amount for drinking water is 4 parts per million. We think that using less road salt or using a substitute would help
keep our water clean. Our next reason is that road salt can damage vegetation. Salt spray from cars can cause salt burn on buds, leaves, and small plants. In addition, it causes desiccated bud scales, exposing tissues and allowing the plants to dry out in winter. Even the salt in soil takes up all the water and causes root dehydration. It can also cause damage because dissolved sodium and chloride ions separate and dissolves in water. The dissolved sodium and chloride can dissipate other minerals and sodium. It can also get absorbed into the plant system instead of the nutrients needed.
Lastly, some symptoms of road salt impact are when you see damage on a plant on the side facing the road, or if flower and fruit development are delayed or smaller than normal. Also, if you see browning at the tips and needles, that can also be a sign. Another symptom of which is broom development, or in other words, tuft and stunted appearance.
In conclusion, we think that we should either not use so much road salt or find a substitute because it has negative impacts on water and causes damage to vegetation. All we ask is that you consider what we have said and think about the impacts we mentioned. We really want what is best for people, but we think we should also start to consider what will happen to all the wildlife and that road salt impacts. Sincerely, Mia, Julia, and Cora.
Dear City Council members, please use less road salt on our roads. We would like to protect the town Christmas tree and other plants. The the road salt hurts plants. Bad in our water. Some alternatives to road salt are sand and beet brine, gravel, sodium chlorine, and lowered speed limits. Sincerely, Climate Kids. We worked really hard on it, and there's so many kids in Barbara Morgan send us Climate Kids.
You guys want to see if council has any questions for you or thoughts?
So before we go to questions, please remain standing. I hope all family members that are here watching, whether it be your grandchildren or your children, you should be very proud. This is one of the best presentations council has heard in a long time. And to you students, I mean that very sincerely. You're very well organized, and it's not easy to get up in front of a governing body and to address us, but you all did it with courage and grace, and you were well prepared. So we really appreciate you being before us. There are probably going to be a few questions, but Kurt, you had asked, let me start with one of the first items you asked about. Perhaps council might want to have this group present to the streets department, to Public Works. I think that's an excellent idea. I think this group has a lot to say and a very good message. So thanks for doing your homework. At this time, I'll open it up to comments and questions from council.
You presented very well, but more important, you brought a very significant problem to the group who have an opportunity to solve it. And so, thank you for I'll just call it wisdom of how we might take better care of our city infrastructure and plants. And for questions, you want to lead off with a question? I think it's very interesting that there might be some substitutes. Has anybody researched or thought about what else we might be able to use other than a salt base?
We sodium chloride, gravel, and lower speed limits.
So I heard lower speed limits, sand and gravel, and
Sodium chloride.
beet brine. Make sure you guys speak into the microphone.
That sounds great. It's really good to know that there is effective alternatives. Thank you.
So I had a couple questions. Did you guys get to actually take the water samples and go through that process? Yeah, all of you? All of you got to do that? So are you sampling the water in the lake next to the tree, or are you getting groundwater, or what, can someone explain that process to me?
We sampled runoff on the roads on Highway 55 and on McCall streets. We did take one sample of the lake.
Okay, interesting. Did the sample in the lake show high chloride concentrations as well?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that's not good. And are you all mostly concerned with Highway 55, or do we use road salt in other areas in the city that we need to be concerned with?
I think we're mainly concerned about the town Christmas tree and that general area. The solution for the town Christmas tree would be to put up barriers of some sort, like plants or like concrete, but that wouldn't be that pretty. So
Yeah, there might be several solutions. I think if you talk to our Public Works Department, you can help them work through that. I did want to make a comment on one of the solutions of lowering the speed limit. As you heard in our general comment, we had a gentleman also comment about lower speed limits and his concern about safety. And I think, I would be all for that as well as part of the solution to making our streets safer, if we're not going to be using road salt. So I appreciate the work you guys did. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in and presenting tonight. You guys did an awesome job. Yeah, I don't think I really have any questions. I think you should take it down to the governor and let him hear it.
All right, so students, you have our blessing from council, and Kurt and all the other adults that helped you. Thank you very much. This was a really great presentation, meaningful, and it's a problem we need to solve. So hang in there with us and continue to meet with other groups like our streets department. And I'm sure they will keep us informed. And when a solution comes up, the council will be eager to act on that. Thanks again.
Thank you, council.
Good job, guys.
Okay, next up, we're gonna have here a annual report from our Public Art Advisory Committee. And Delta James is going to introduce our guest from the Art Committee.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Delta James. I'm your Economic Development Planner, and I have the privilege of being the staff support for the McCall Public Art Advisory Committee. Tonight, we have our committee chair, Nellie Bowman, here to provide the 2025 annual report from that committee for you.
Welcome, Nellie.
Thank you, Nellie Bowman. I'm chair of the Public Art Advisory Committee for this year, and I do have to say that those kids were a tough act to follow. I hope I can do as well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you this report live. I know that you have read our minutes, but it's very nice that you want to hear from us in person. So thank you. The committee members that okay. Yeah. Okay. Same committee members that were represented last year. They're a good, solid group, and most of them don't have any intention of leaving the task that we are presented with. So what I would like to do is start with the purpose of McCall Public Art. You know it, but I think it always helps to refresh your memory, especially when I show you a little bit about what we've been doing, and you can tie that to what our purpose is. And it is to enhance the community's cultural, aesthetic, and economic vitality. But perhaps even more important to the committee is what public art encourages: public engagement, the community itself being engaged in choosing the public art that you will find around town, contributing to a sense of place. Several of our requests for proposals to artists have emphasized community, and we have asked them to think about McCall as a community as they are designing their artwork. The light boxes, for example, and I'll explain a little more about that later. Promoting local history, the mill whistle, that's a great example. And attending to the natural environment, which these kids talked about. It's a very important thing, it seems, to people who live here in McCall, to the artists who participate in our artwork. They bring up our natural environment all the time as an example of what makes McCall a community. And an example of that is the mural that was completed just last year at the McCall Thrift Store. And I'm going to talk a little more about that again later. And visualizing the evolving character of McCall. We're growing. These kids want us to change. And we need to incorporate that into the public art we create. Okay, the downtown mural, River Artists and Balsam Root, was completed last year. And when it was finished, we had a mural funding remainder of $4,700. So we decided, after a good bit of discussion in our committee, to create an educational video that enhances and highlights the balsam root, the otters, the fish, the painted turtles, all of which are represented in this mural, and our local life forms. So we contracted with Pepper Shock Media to create an educational video. The committee put together the content and the script, and Pepper Shock took images and bought some images to put together the video. In that video, we also highlighted the artist who painted it, who did such an amazing job. I think it's a wonderful piece of environmental artwork for us. So what we did with this video then, in conjunction with City Help, we created a QR code, and that QR code was placed on a plaque, which is not adhered to the wall yet because it's too cold still. But that QR code will allow visitors who are there viewing the mural to watch the video real time as the artist and as the video talks about how we are so fortunate to have river otters, because it says that that means we have a healthy water system. Same with the fish, who are very particular about the quality of the water that they inhabit. So I encourage you, if you haven't yet, to take a look at that video. And then we were so pleased with the impact of the first mural, we've decided to hopefully contract with Albertsons to do a second mural. This would be on the east-facing wall, right there where everyone parks in our newly renovated parking lot. It's an ideal location. One of our members, Dawn Mattis, has requested Albertsons' participation through multiple avenues. She contacted the local store manager, the community liaison for Albertsons, the head of the architectural firm that's managing murals for Albertsons in the Valley. All to naught, however. They have expressed interest, but we have not had a go-ahead as yet. They've been working on their merger with Kroger, and you know, that's been determined for a while now, but I think they're still in a bit of, they have a lot of other business work to do. So I'm hoping that at some point we will win this agreement with them. Student art bus stops. You've all seen those, I'm sure, and that artwork has been done by students at NDHS. And at our April meeting, Jared Hopkins from the school system provided a presentation of artwork from elementary, middle school, and high school. And we reviewed those, took a good long look, and felt we gave him some input about what needed to happen to make them more readable, more visible, a little less busy, because it's important that cars driving by can see the artwork too. So he's going to take our recommendations back to the teachers and students and ask for some revisions, and then we will revisit it again. One of the things I love that these students had done was to provide artist statements about their work and about how their artwork reflects the McCall community. And they were well written and quite thoughtful. Okay, local art for light boxes. That is also an effort that used the prompt to artists of community. The call for applications asked them, what does community mean to you? We asked them to identify themes relating to community building. What defines a McCall community? And what should we aspire to be? So those were thinking points for the artists as they planned their artwork presentations to us. We had 6 applications and we had 5 light boxes to cover. But we approved 2. So we'll have 2 new light boxes vinyl wrapped into public art this spring. And we've decided to open up the application process again in the spring of 2026 to get more entries and choose artwork for the 3 remaining light boxes. And I want to say we have a great deal of appreciation to McCall Redevelopment Agency for funding these light boxes. Legacy Park stairs. This is a big project. City approved capital improvement plan by Parks and Recreation that included $20,000 toward public art for the legacy stairs. We really appreciate this working together that we've developed with Parks and Recreation, as well as with the support of City Council and Mayor Bob. So we sent out a request for qualifications. This is a different process to find artists. We asked them to first send us examples of previous artwork and why they think they're qualified to do such a job as this. Then from there, 3 artists will be chosen out of the group that has applied to present a specific design for the stairs. They would be paid $500 each to do the artwork workup to present to us. In the RFQ, artists were given some examples about how they could lend art to the stairs. Images and text on stair risers that create a cohesive artwork when viewed from the bottom of the staircase. Custom stair railings. Inlays into concrete of stairway replacement at landings and or the stem walls, and relief or sculptural works installed within adjacent landscaping. So it's uncertain at this time whether the construction of the stairway timeline will allow the artists opportunities to inlay their artwork into as the construction is processing, like a cement pour, for example, or whether the artwork will be attached afterward. So this should become clear as the construction contractor is identified. So far, we've received 6 applications, and the artist selection committee will review the applications and then recommend 3 finalist artists. And then the finalists will be presented to City Council to make the final decision. Now this one is kind of sad and we're worried about it. The Riverfront Park Public Art Plan. It was to be our focus this year. You kindly budgeted $15,000 to develop an arts and culture plan for Riverfront Park. And Delta submitted a grant to the National Endowment for the Arts for the remainder of the project cost. The total project cost is $35,000. And the project was to include Nez Perce and Shoshone tribal members. with the idea of including their history in our area into this cultural plan. However, to date, we have not received a response regarding the grant request, and you know what's going on at the federal level in regard to National Endowment for the Arts. So we don't have much of a feeling yet whether we will get it or not. It meets their guidelines beautifully. It fits into the Our Town guidelines. So we are just really hoping that it comes to pass. Otherwise, we'll find a new plan. And the last mural project I'm going to present to you, I think you know about. It's the McCall Ski Heritage Mural, which will be on the east wall of the Chevron station. In April, Craig Johnson of the Heritage Board came and presented 3 mural designs to our committee. And those designs were outstanding. They were created by the selected artist, Odessa Kaufman, who is very, very good. So we're excited about their project. They're paying for it, which is lovely. So the committee discussed the strengths of their design ideas and preferred 2 of them, ski jump and drop-in, which is one you see up here. We didn't make any decisions that night because the Heritage Group wants to involve the community in seeing what their input would be. Three visual images, and we'll see what the community would like to see, as well as making sure that the choices really represents the ski heritage goals for that and is good artwork. So we may see them next week. I don't know if they'll be coming
It'll be in June, but there's a lovely article in today's newspaper that has all 3 images in it and the link to the survey. If anyone in the public would like to weigh in on the 3 fantastic designs being proposed by the Ski Heritage Foundation for that site.
Yeah. Engaging the community. So I guess in June then they will bring us the results and what their final recommendation will be. And the last thing is the maintenance review that we do every year as a committee for the current inventory of our public art. So we record the overall site condition. Is the cement crumbling where it is the landscaping well done? And we look at signage. Is the signage appropriate for the site? Any need for potential cleaning or repair of the artwork? So we complete forms and submit them to Delta, and then she shares those with Parks and Recreation. So we will see where that heads. So I want to thank you again for your support for public art. It is a wonderful thing for the people who live here, and it is a draw for tourists. It makes our town vibrant and beautiful, and I appreciate the support you give to the program. As this fiscal year progresses, then we will continue to make sure that the vinyl wraps on those 2 light boxes will be taken care of, I think, by this fall. We will work to ensure something lovely for Legacy Stairs, and the student bus stop artwork and installation will be a focus. And then hopefully we will pursue the cultural plan for Riverfront Park. Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your group very much. Please extend our thanks from all of us on council to all your members.
No.
And thanks for doing a great job tonight.
Thank
Council, any questions or comments?
I think the artwork at Riverfront Park will really be a crucial part of the park.
Okay, I'm going to come closer because
I don't either, so I typically speak up. So I think the artwork is a crucial representation of Riverfront Park and creating the ambiance and all that. And I see the $35,000 in grant money, and my sense is that that money will show up within this community when there's some kind of a concept or a promotion for that. So I think if you have to wait a year or whatever it takes to find the money, I think the money will show up for that one. Yeah. Now, I'm saying from us, not from city council, but somebody to be proud to have their name on that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Nellie. Appreciate it. Delta, thanks. Delta, you're up next. We're going to talk about a progressive, let's see, the Piat Lakes Progressive Grant Application, McCall Youth Recreation Scholarships.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Delta James, your Economic Development Planner. As you know, I write and administer most of the grants for the City of McCall. This is a request for the McCall Parks and Recreation Department. They would like to submit a small grant application request to the Piat Lakes Progressive Club for up to $1,000 to support scholarships for youth participation in their recreation programs. It's a small request, but it's a nice partnership, and we have a lengthy history of support from the Piat Lakes Progressive Club. They helped fund ski equipment for the youth programs back in 2018. They funded these same scholarship program in 2021, 2022. And so every so often we go back and ask if they want to be a partner. This program does provide scholarships for approximately 25 to 30 youth annually to participate in the recreation programs, everything from toddlers to teens in programs that range from mountain biking to skiing to no school fun days, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a quick application process. It's designed to support people or families that are economically disadvantaged or have gone through a house fire or some other reason or trauma. It's first come, first serve basis. And yeah, so hopefully we can get a few more funds into that pot to support another 25 to 30 youth.
All right, any questions for Delta? I'll call for a motion then.
Move you.
Second.
Thank you, Lyle. Thank you, Colby. All right, I'm going to call for a roll call vote on this motion.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
sorry, Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machesik.
Yeah.
Councilmember Thrower.
Thank you, Delta.
Thank
That
you.
motion carries. Thank you, Bessie Jo. Okay, next up, we had a little preview on this topic during public comment, and we know that there's been some interest on our public hearing procedures. So I'm going to ask Forrest, our city manager, and Bill Punkany, our legal advisor tonight, to help us talk about this topic and what some options might be available to us.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor Giles. So I'll just introduce the topic and talk a little bit about the documents that are in the packet. So I received correspondence from a community member expressing interest in this issue and how our code aligns with the state statute, and along similar lines to the comment that you heard tonight from Marcia Whitty. So in the agenda bill, I restated the state statute for you, which, I mean, it's very high level, and it just generally states that the hearing procedures shall provide an opportunity for all affected persons to present and rebut evidence. So the state statute doesn't dictate specifically the structure or process of cities' public hearing procedures. Generally, the way that we have conducted our hearings has been in alignment with the state statute, in compliance. There are other ways that some cities and counties have structured their hearing processes in their code to explicitly call out the fact that if new information is introduced during the applicant's response, that the public should be allowed to respond to that. So we thought it would be useful to just talk about our code itself and anything that we might think about changing to make that more explicit, to address that concern. I think, you know, there is no requirement that the kind of presentation and response to presentation goes on infinitely. There has to be an end somewhere. And in Idaho case law, I think Bill can talk to this more specifically, but the applicant is the, I can't remember what the phrasing is exactly. The applicant is the party with the most direct property right, and is the party that has the burden of persuading the decision maker that the requirements have been met. So I think that that's one thing to consider, and I'll ask Bill Punkeny just to add anything and maybe summarize his thoughts on it.
Yeah, thanks, Forrest. Bill Punkeny, City Attorney's Office. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, so a couple of things stuck out to me as I was reviewing this topic tonight. The first of which was that, you know, our process has never been adjudged to be unlawful. And I also have attended a very large number of public hearings here for the city of McCall. And in my perspective, although we are human and by no means perfect, overall, the system has been very fair. And the principles that both the case law and the statute identify is that people who have an interest ought to be given an opportunity to be heard and to respond. And as Forrest mentioned, in my experience, that is what is happening. That said, the other thing that really stuck out to me when I was just sort of reviewing the packet and our ordinance is that the last time that ordinance had been revisited was 2006. And so it's been quite some time. And I think that a thoughtful review would be ideal. And I think that, you know, certainly there's places that we could potentially tune this up. One of the things that, you know, we might suggest is, as Forrest mentioned, maybe putting in there that if new issues are raised on rebuttal, that, you know, other parties should be given, interested parties should be given an opportunity to respond. I tend to agree with Forrest that the applicant ought to be given the last word because they have the greater property right at issue in, for example, a CUP. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bill. So the code exists today that we use is 2006.
Correct. According to what's published online, the last time it was amended was 2006.
Yeah. I think under agenda, our job tonight is to provide direction to staff. So, Council, let me start with you, Lyle. What's your thoughts?
I've heard from several people who made public presentations for their 3 minutes and they then sit down. They're not called upon to clarify anything or given another opportunity to address something that comes up. But I've had 2 incidents of myself. I didn't feel like I was really given the opportunity to fully express. And it comes, you know, the point made from someone to me, but it ends up that the representative attorney gets all the time they want. Then something comes up that I didn't address, or feel like I should have, and that made me feel like I wasn't represent my view. So I would say that in our review, that I like the idea. I agree that the applicant has the most at stake, should have a final word to say. But I often think during, and just discussing with the council, I often think somebody comes up, they speak for, they go down, sit back down, and we don't clarify anything they said or ask them questions. I think we could be slightly more interactive. People who, because I mean, the statute says you have that opportunity. We can even ask a question while they're up on the stage if we want about something. But I just think when we look at the review, that people feel that in general represented and engaged. We're doing well. I agree. We're doing well. We could do better. I think there's an opportunity. We should review that in mind.
Julie?
Yeah, I think it would be great. That's issues. Sure, some of them big at the time, but I think we're and more.
Can you turn on your mic, please?
Thank you, Bessie Jo. I think we're getting bigger and more complex land use applications that, you know, we want to make sure that our procedures are such that we are getting as much information as we can, and the correct information, and to make sure that we're making the right decision. Being on the other side, representing community groups, it does feel like the process is really just sort of there to make you feel like you've been heard, but not necessarily, you don't always feel like you've been heard. And part of that is the lack of rebuttal. And in particular, if you feel that there is new information that was brought up, or incorrect information that was brought up. I don't know what kind of process we could have. I mean, if you think about, 50, 100 people or whatever, if we have a very active community in a particular land use application, how we can cabin that so that all 50 or 100 people aren't saying, I want to rebut. I mean, I think it could get out of hand, but I think maybe we should think about whether there is some sort of procedure where we can address the public's concerns about new information or incorrect information. I mean, I get, the law is set up that the applicant has the greatest interest in the property, right? But I would like us to think about that a little differently when we think about this procedure, because there are a lot, I mean, we're getting pretty important, controversial, big impact projects coming down the line that I think the community, whether it is your typical NIMBY 300 feet or the greater community, do really have a huge interest in. So, I mean, I get, legally property rights and everything like that, but I think we need to, remember the property rights of the neighbors that they have the right of their use and enjoyment of their property as well, and how projects can impact that. And so I think, that's sort of, where I think from being on the other side and the public's perspective is that, that lack of ability to address new information, incorrect information, is sort of gives that feeling of, okay, yeah, you get your 3 minutes, of course, the applicant gets however long he wants, really, right? And they only get 3 minutes. I mean, we have to, we can't let everybody speak for as long as they want either, but that's sort of where I feel like people, commenting sort of don't, get the feeling like, okay, yeah, you get to stand up for 3 minutes, but it, in the end, doesn't really matter. They do the process because that's what process is there. But, maybe sometimes they're not really feeling heard. that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah. I have a, yeah, no problem. I can barely speak. Excuse me, with a bit of a cold. So, yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, I am as well. I think finding the balance of, when there has been enough input from all sides. There, the public hearing has to close eventually, and kind of trying to figure out what was the best opportunity. I think there's, I don't know. I think we need to consider it. It's not a straightforward thing. I think we can maintain an openness to it. I feel like if we do continue public hearing, like to another date, that would seem reasonable, that would also include a public comment if there were continuing the conversation, if the applicant is bringing new material. I think the one, I guess, with the marina instance, I think people felt like they didn't have an opportunity to rebut that information. And I don't know if it would have, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. That's all I got.
Thank you. Okay. I think you've captured our direction. We're very interested in doing a review. It's a 2006 code. It's timely to do that. Council gave some very good thoughts as to why. We'll trust you to bring us some options as to what to try to balance these needs and still be able to conduct business effectively, so on time, to address issues that that come up during public hearings, but also make sure that it's meaningful for all who are involved and all who are affected. So it's a daunting task, but I'm sure will bring us some good options.
Great, thanks. I think that's, yeah, I think that gives us the direction and the comment that we need.
Okay.
Mayor Bob, and just kind of a question amongst ourselves, like, I think procedurally the advice and what we have is pretty clear. But I wonder sometimes just operationally, when somebody says something in their 3 minutes, then goes and sits down, and then a minute or two later, you think, oh, that was an interesting statement, or what, to turn around and address the person is, why do you feel that statement that you made is really important? Or what data do you have behind that or something? But we typically don't do that. Someone speaks and I'm not sure if we want to be a little more, and I think Colby's saying, it's not that it has to be so structured. Without structure, though, we're going to get in problem too. But the openness, there's only 2 or 3 people some night that make a general comment. And to be able to say, I'd like to hear you say a little bit more about such and such. And what do people feel about that in terms, does it get us more information to make the decision? And might it also make people feel they were heard? And
People show up to make the same comment that they made prior meeting, same comment that the person before them made, same, saying that there'd be new information that maybe there was not any substantive new information. I'm not speaking against public comment. I feel like it's really valuable, and we have to have it and have to figure out how to actually, hear what folks are saying. But I think that's where, it gets between keeping things timely and hearing all the sides, right? How do we collect all the information and make people feel heard and keep the process moving?
And be fair to all people, that you don't give somebody twice as much time by re-inviting them on a particular thing that you want to have carry more weight. So there's an equity issue also. Thanks. I just wanted to get some sense about that.
All right, let's move on to upcoming meeting schedule.
First, and so it will be over in the Hirschberger room. And then the next meeting scheduled is the June 5th special meeting, but currently there is nothing on that. So that one will cancel because that's next Thursday. So you have kind of a bye week. The next meeting would be June 12th. Just a reminder that June 18th through the 20th is the AIC conference at the Boise Center. And then the second budget meeting will also in the Hirschberger room. That's highlights. Is there anything that you all like to see added or I will okay. Also not. And then June 27th. I am. Ceremony skipping the.
So tomorrow, I need to head down to Boise for my medical appointment. And I'll be here for the first 2 hours from 9 to 11. So I'm going to ask you, Colby, to preside over the meeting after 11 a.m. because we might go as late as 1 budget stuff. And the rest of you be able to attend that meeting? Okay. Okay, but we'll still. Yeah, you'll still have a quorum.
It's gonna be the tightest budget in history.
All right. All right. Well,
Before we adjourn, I did want to address, interesting things to really about, with especially streets, and Davis is closed now, but Davis, the Creek, don't have that pedestrian traffic or school routes that don't have, pathways or sidewalks in particular, decreasing this 5 miles per hour does the actual injuries. Things, trucks with both. That down as fast. I use truck problem where. So can height. A lot of organizations that have safety issues and a substantial provide substantial safety. So I don't know, not be able to do anything about, but I think people are interested.
Yeah, I think we're all interested in that. We could put that as a future topic. Ask staff to help us.
But I live on, and it's a mile-an-hour speed limit.
It's the speed limit, yes, I understand. But, you know, I mean, if you continue to have, some people will follow it. I mean, if, you know, you can always blame enforcement, but people will. And if it's busy and there's one person in the front that's following it, everyone afterwards will have. Yeah, I mean, will we, you know, I mean, you have the curbs too, but you would think that would help us down. I know it doesn't. I know, you know, I mean, the little flashing signs and let down, but at least, you know, if we have that and eventually maybe
As
people will go 25 instead of 20, they'll go 25. Now they're going
I
30.
think people and kids and dogs walking in the streets help slow the traffic down. So that's the one upside of not having a pathway on all the way through the ways. It's not something slows them down, but it's scary.
I still have problems with stopping at the stop sign and like.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a great topic.
Yeah, and you know, it can be more than just the speed too. It can be the whole safe leave for school, the whole thing about keeping some kind of public interest in and some way of measuring and monitoring traffic per given time unit and all that. So I think that review that we stand for being a safe city for kids and families and that. I think it's maybe more circumspect than just.
We have balance to do with. Yeah, I live on a direct. Speed limit change. That speed is straight.
Yeah.
People go fast.
So maybe something in August will all be, would those dates in August work, that we'd all be present?
Sign, welcome them all slow down.
Yeah, I mean, that speed bump, whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Slow down. Don't be angry. Chill out. You're on vacation.
No, I think it's timely.
Thanks
All
for
right.
bringing it up.
Thank you for reading. I've been jumping a few times, get excited. I walk my dogs and, sorry. Bright red, bright orange, it's your job to be seen for residents. You'll see me.
Yeah, but you know, there's this, I mean, sorry, my son's really into this stuff and there's a lot of organizations that take the approach of even pedestrians will have accidents, you know, walking out to the street that see the car or whatever and having go slow or stop and if they do hit you or less, I mean, it's kind of both. It's both the, you know, cars need to do their part, the pedestrians need to do their part. We as a city need to do our part when, you know, either one of those entities makes a mistake.
All right, I'm gonna call for a motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning tonight's city council meeting, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.